I am still trapped in this terrible place, and I have no one to blame but myself. I never took Doomsvent seriously. I laughed at him, mocked him for how much of a loser supervillain he was, didn't want to think I could be held responsible for anything he did, and now I have killed him. It probably wasn't the real Doomsvent. This whole thing could still be an elaborate trick. But when I look back on yesterday, and I ask myself if I would have done the same thing knowing for certain I was killing the man who only exists because of me, and I am forced to answer yes, I would kill him to save myself and return to my wife and son, I find I don't know how to live with myself. Have I become some twisted perversion of myself here, or has Doomsvent simply peeled back the layers to reveal what was always there? The man in today's comic feels like a poor excuse for a human being. He's an alcoholic, has turned to booze his whole adult life whenever things get tough, and after losing everyone he's ever cared about, he drives to the edge of a bridge and prepares to jump off. After drinking away 3 marriages and not being there for his 2 kids, the only thing that even remotely held Tom together was a stable, grounded sister who was always there for him. Then he fell hard into a pit of despair when his sister was hit by a drunk driver, and he was so far gone, he drove drunk to her funeral. It's a routine sad sap story, but that's the point. Tom is a regular guy with regular problems. It's the sort of thing real people consider suicide over, and this is the story about how heaven manipulates good people at their lowest points. An angel comes to Tom in the guise of a bearded man and shows him the face of Jesus, tricking him into thinking God and the afterlife are like they're written about in the Bible, and not the corrupt military organization we've seen in these comics. The angel convinces Tom not to jump, and not because he really cares about Tom's well-being or because he really can come back from this and change his life for the better, but in order to lay claim to his soul so heaven gets another soldier when he dies. Heaven sees the people God created as props to be acquired and used for its own ends. So Spawn, seeing this as despicable and having established himself as the self-appointed balance between heaven and hell, tells Tom about heaven's lies. This series takes place just after Spawn started his necro-inferno in the alleys and tours the world to judge bad people. At least this spin-off series with Spawn in the title actually has Spawn in the comic. Much like he'll explain to Granny Blake in 101, Spawn says that the angels manipulate people, that heaven and hell don't really represent good and evil, and that he's been brainwashed to blindly pledge himself to a lying god. Spawn goes on for several pages about how he's freeing Tom from the injustice of not being allowed to live his life the way he wants to, saying he's giving Tom back the power of choice, then wipes Tom's memory of the angel and everything he just said. What is the point of explaining your point of view and motivations for taking away a guy's memory right before taking away the guy's memory? It's like Spawn knows there's an audience reading this thing or something. So Tom does just what he would have done if the angel had never arrived. He jumps to his doom. This might be the single most depressing experience with a comic book I have ever had. A story where Mercy is a demon from hell delivering a man from the tyranny of heaven by negating the help of a guardian angel trying to prevent the man's suicide. In the context of this situation, I see where Spawn is coming from. Though Tom doesn't know it, he's inadvertently sold himself into slavery to heaven, which, from Spawn's perspective, is no different from his inadvertent lopsided deal with hell. In fact, it's almost worse because Tom was sold an outright lie, a glimpse of a merciful God of compassion that's nothing more than propaganda. But this is such a bleak and hopeless message. It's basically saying human beings have no choice, and the closest we can come to free will is by rejecting any kind of faith and choosing our own time to die if we want. So Spawn thinks it's better to give hell a new soul by default than to let heaven recruit a soul. How is that fair to Tom? Because this is about fairness, right? Tom was sold a lie, so it's not fair to let him believe that lie. Better to give him a choice. Okay, how about instead of wiping his memory, you balance it with truth? Why not do something actually helpful out of the goodness of your undead heart and try to talk Tom out of suicide with the cold facts? Give him an education. Maybe say heaven and hell both suck and you have no say where you go, so you might as well live the best life you can while you still have a choice. He gave Mark that choice when he showed him what hell is like. Spawn's methods of helping or punishing people are completely arbitrary, just based on whatever the message of the month is. But I can't blame Paul Jenkins for not having a clear idea on how Spawn should behave. He's always been like this. Plus, this whole premise is faulty, because the rules have suddenly changed. I thought heaven and hell split all the souls down the middle. Heaven gets a soul, then heaven, etc. That's what Spawn said in 101, and it's been established before that, too. Wait, but if that's true, then why did Bulgy want Spawn to kill corrupt souls to beef up his army, if half of them go to heaven anyway? Half is right. Half the time it works like this comic, and half the time it works like 101. Sounds like several people need to take creative writing 101. Oh, right, art over story. Well, the art here is done by Dwayne Turner, and it looks like Sam and Twitch. Simple panel layouts, dialogue with stems instead of balloons, and a whole lot of black and shadows. Creates a dismal atmosphere, and that's just what it's going for. The story is dreary and without any hope for humanity. Just what I needed right now. I feel just like Tom. Hopeless. Nowhere to turn. Nobody to talk to. It's just me and my remorse. And now I am desperate, out of options, and I can't stoop any lower than I already have.